One thing I liked about the end of the montage that sort of splits this Eurovision in half is one of the hosts then immediately says, in 10 years from now, they will probably laugh at us too. Oh, you guys have no clue.
Hello and welcome to the EuroWhat, episode 249, dropping on December 30th, 2024. We are a pair of Americans trying to make sense of the Eurovision Song Contest. I'm Mike McComb, and I'm here with my co-host, Ben Smith. Hey, Ben.
Hey, Mike.
In this episode, we're closing out 2024 with a flashback to the 2000 Eurovision Song Contest from Stockholm. How's it going, Ben?
It's good. I have refreshed myself in the waters of 2000. The millennium is here.
Yeah.
The Y2K virus did not get us.
Yeah. Yeah, this was such a delight to go back to. Mm-hmm. It's been a while since we've done like a kind of Eurovision again revisit of a specific contest, and it's going to be the 25th anniversary, year that ends in 5, pew pew pew, to the 2000 that ends in 3 zeros, pew 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 pew.
Yeah, and like I feel like we've covered this one in a few places in like bits and pieces, and because we've covered it in bits and pieces, I've wanted to see sort of the full crazy quilt.
Particularly this year, like we had David Junk and Fred Bronson talking about their experience at the 2000 contest as part of Russia's contingent, and we are going to be seeing Stefan Raab from Germany as part of the Eurovision selection process in this coming year. Little bits and pieces that are just popping up. There's like, oh, this might be a good time to revisit this one. Had you seen this contest before?
I had not. Like I had bookmarked this because again, I had wanted to dive back into this and like found a full copy on YouTube. It's a little bit potato quality, and I kind of love that about it. Like it adds like a little charm.
Yeah, and I think it also helps kind of put it immediately into context, because this would have been before HD was fully available. It's probably technically a good rip of the contest, since it was probably pulled from like a VHS tape. I kind of felt at home with it, because this was when I was in high school, and I don't want to say developing my music taste, because, hello, we're doing a Eurovision podcast. That's a loaded statement.
Again, just getting sort of thrust into the 2000s, especially as we're now in an era where all of the 2000s trends are starting to come back and like bring back the bad fashion things too.
Yeah.
You don't just get the good ones. Because, oh boy, this one had some we were trying things and they didn't always work.
And also just the fact that it's just like, it's year 2000, it's the new millennium, it's like Y2K, and it's just like this sort of, I don't know, you could kind of feel the Matrix influence in like the graphic design, a lot of flying text on the screen and and bash code and stuff.
Just a lot, yeah, just a lot of code on screen, just a lot of we have word art now.
This contest was held in Stockholm, Sweden, following Charlotte Nilsson's win in Jerusalem with Take Me to Your Heaven. There were 24 countries that were competing in this contest, and it was conducted almost entirely with televote. There were a few exceptions that we'll get into in a little bit. Yeah, the logo for this contest was the Lips logo. Ben, do you have any thoughts on the Lips logo?
They were trying to do like some sort of standardized graphic design, and the first draft isn't always the best draft. But, like, it worked. It gave it personality.
Okay. There are two hosts to this show.
I'm trying to be nice.
I hated that graphic so much.
Yeah, well, just like every time that they applied the flag colors in, like, different ways, I'm like, just give us the flag.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, there's, like, the way that the lips are separated, it's just really kind of gross. I don't know if it was trying to be cheeky, but it was just really, like, I just found it so deeply unpleasant to look at. I was doing some Googling right before we started recording and landed on the Eurovision page's description of the 2000 contest. Here's how they were describing the logo.
Oh, no.
SVT picked a pair of open lips to represent the 2000 Eurovision Song Contest. The designers described it as a sensual yet stylistically pure mouth representing song, dialogue, and speech. 3 years later, the logo was in the running to become the contest's generic logo. That was when I started screaming. And, but eventually, the current heart flag symbol was picked.
Bullet dodged.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if
boy.
honestly, I don't know if I would be able to be a fan of this if that were the permanent logo. Because yeah, it's just, I keep on wanting to put googly eyes on it just to see if that would maybe improve the look. The aesthetic of the contest, not to everyone's taste. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, not like in recent years, like you have like the opening act and then the hosts come out and then there's a bunch of chatter and then we get to the songs. Like this was like 5 minutes and we're into it. But oh boy, those 5 minutes were just sort of getting like thrown in like the deep end of just a little like casual sexism and racism in like the first 5 minutes to get things started.
Yeah. But
it's like we're firmly in the tail end of the 90s. Yeah.
There is no delay to just like getting to the songs, and I kind of miss that.
Yeah, like I deeply appreciated that. We have 24 songs to get through. We're going to be here for an additional hour because everybody's given their numbers. Like, let's get to it.
Yeah. So that part was nice, and then it like gets into the postcards, and these postcards were bananas in my opinion.
There was like an attempt at humor that is just not global because like it felt like the postcards were sort of like how the notion that Swedish people don't feed their guests. There's sort of a dry wit they're going for, like, here's a setup and surprise, it's Norwegian petrol in the boat. Where it's just sort of like the most tangential thing, and I think that's the joke.
Well, yeah, that was the thing. Like the first couple of postcards, not so much Israel's postcard because it was just like referencing an author of a book, and they were symbolizing that with a book. But then it was like scientists in the lab who happen to be Dutch, and it's just like, I don't know, just kind of doxing people at their various workplaces. But then it just kind of turned into very abstract concepts like Norwegian petrol in a boat or French house music or something, or it's just like, could they not find a French person?
It was just like, there needed to be more consistency because, like, again, it seemed to be like a punchline and a setup, but it was always the one joke, and sometimes it was just kind of mean. It puts the 2024 contest in a little bit more context.
I guess we could get into the performances, and kicking off the show was Israel and the song Sameach by the group Ping Pong. We had talked about this entry in a good level of detail when we were talking about flags way back in the before times. Boy, oh boy, does this hit differently now than it may have in 2000.
Yes, it does.
Just to kind of quickly summarize, like, what happened with this performance. Well, first of all, the Israeli broadcaster disavowed it after the first rehearsal because the group was waving flags, like celebrating like peace and unity between like Israel and Syria. Read the 2024 room. And then two of the male performers kissed during the performance, and this one did not go over well back home. It's fine. Like, it is very much 2000s basic Euro pop.
A recurring thing for me throughout all of the performances, and like this one just starting things the night off, is just like the MIDI of it all.
Yes.
Like, we had computerized instrumentation, and it was at a level that like we were still trying to make those be real instruments instead of leaning into their inherent qualities, and it feels a lot like karaoke tracks.
Oh, yeah.
Or just like the ringtones you used to have on your Nokia phone. And because this one is like real heavy on that, and just like the two backing singers that Ping Pong has are just powerhousing a note. Sometimes it is the correct note.
Yeah, it's not a particularly melodic song.
No.
I think I really would have dug it like back in 2000 at the time. I think part of it may have just been like, it's like, oh, this is so different than what we hear in the US.
Mm-hmm.
That's not to say that it's good. It's just that it's different.
I mean, I think I was listening to it for like a couple of months after we first talked about it during the Flags episode, just because like it now has like a kitschy quality.
Mm-hmm.
But just like watching the performance again, you have so many elements going on. You have the two backing singers in the back. You have everybody's like sort of doing choreography, but like one person is like out of step with the others. You have like one of the male singers is just doing like a full soy bomb thing.
Mm-hmm. This is also a group that is kind of demonstrating all of the fashion that is happening in the year 2000.
At once. The Delia's catalog has exploded.
I think you may have made that same joke in the last time that we
I may have. It just, yeah, again, like, it is just like a very specific slice of late 90s, early 2000s.
I think it did a great job of setting the tone for the rest of the show in a positive way. Like, it's just like, oh, nope. I know what I've just signed up for the next 3 hours, and I am totally on board. So. Yes.
Well, and then, like, for me, immediately following that with the Netherlands and just all of the things the Netherlands was doing in that performance, just my... This is a very online note, just from, again, spending too much time on Blue Sky, but just, like, my main note for the Netherlands performance is, who is this diva? Just the opening is just very dramatic. And then, like, the song proceeds to do, like, slightly too much in everything else. But just, it's, again, just, like, between those two, I'm just, like, good to go.
Yes. And I think what Linda's No Goodbyes did to kind of kick off what Israel's performance was not able to kick off, key changes. Like, I have key change in, like, capital letters in my notes, like, with, I think, at least 70% of these entries. So
yes,
much different time than now.
Oh, yeah, just like so many key changes, and like we're in like the fun little transitional era where like the old contest is dying, the new contest struggles to be born. So you have like a lot of, here are our 5 backing singers, and you have other acts that are like trying choreography and using the screens that they have behind them, and just we're trying stuff. We're getting there.
And it's also just kind of highlighting how kind of all over the place the charts were in 2000. We'll get into more detail about that in a little bit, but well, I won't say all of these songs, but a lot of these songs I was able to point to another example of a contemporary version of that type of song. It's like, oh yeah, that was also kind of a big hit at the time. I think most of the ones that I picked were like from 97 or 98. So it is kind of setting up that Eurovision trend of being 2 to 3 years behind the true zeitgeist. But
oh yeah, no, like I felt that with a lot of these entries of like, okay, yeah, no, like we are roughly when this was a vibe, but maybe like a few years ago.
The next one was the UK and Nikki French with Don't Play That Song Again. And I was familiar with Nikki French from her cover of Total Eclipse of the Heart. One of my early intros into like the whole Euro pop aesthetic. I believe that version was kind of a remix too. I don't know. Detroit radio is weird that it was like pumping so much of of Euro pop into my ears, but I really dug this one. I thought it was a great vocal. Like it's a so-so song, but I thought Nikki French did a fantastic job performing it.
I enjoyed this one as well. I noted that the general structure / chorus, like this is the first thing that SNL would put in like a CD compilation sketch of just like I forget who I had cast for this one, but just sort of like the first song before we get to like the jokey numbers down the road. It was a good one. Also, I spent like a little bit of time on the Nikki French Wikipedia page just because it was one of the names that was blue on the Wikipedia for this one. I was delighted that she has an album called French Connection.
Nice. Yeah.
Another one that's French Revolution. I'm just like, this is what I want.
She knows her audience. Excellent.
She knows her audience. Like this is the song that has been stuck in my head since I watched the contest. I don't know why this one.
I have a theory. My first note on this song is that it's kind of reminiscent of ABBA's Fernando.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So maybe it's that kind of alchemy, because that is one that will get stuck in my head if I hear it.
I love how many dance music cliches this has going on at once. It's just like, hey, Mr. DJ, don't play that song.
Yep. Put $5 in the cup or I'm not going to listen to you.
Okay, so I also really liked Estonia's entry. Like the MIDI of it all was like a struggle, but just like the core song is good, and I would go back to that one.
I was reading on the Eurovision's rundown of the 2000 contest that this one was considered the favorite going into the night.
That tracks for me. Is like it solidly put together. Very good job, Estonia.
Yes.
And like they won a couple years later, so just like they like I feel like there are always like countries who are like in the zone for like a couple years and then they do it.
That totally makes sense with this entry. Although, like, I think this postcard may have been my favorite because it's an Estonian choir, and I just have it in my notes that they're singing "Apartment for Sale" from Tar. So, oh, how I wish that were true. Following Estonia was France with Sofia Mastari's "En Aura les Cieux." This one was one of my favorites from the whole set.
Good. Like, my notes were also, this is a vibe and I am into it. France, do this again.
Yes. It's just this like late 90s acoustic, exactly what would be in my CD player at that point in time. Again, like with the postcard, like they could not find one French person. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. There are so many French things, Sweden. So many.
This one was a great track and just seemed kind of, I don't know if unexpected's the right one, but it feels like it's a nice bookend with their entry from 1991.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay. Like the 90s were a fun decade for France and very, very much my vibe. So
as much as I like the French entry, I strongly dislike the Romanian entry. It was not for me. Just like big Creed energy.
I was trying to put my finger on what it was. Like here are what my notes are. Not Lifehouse, ... Edwin McCain, ? Collective Soul with the treble maxed, like whiny acoustic coffee house, but with panpipes. But it felt very 1998. So
yes.
Like there was that aspect to it, but it was like that strain of male acoustic pop that's like, ugh, this is just not working for me.
Yeah, just like, well, and again, the creed of it all for me. Vaguely, but not explicitly religious. Again, kind of whiny. Did not enjoy.
This postcard, the reference point was Dracula, a myth from Romania. I'm just like, really, Sweden? You couldn't try like a little bit harder on that? So those were the first 6 acts. Then they go to the break and start talking about how there were 6 million viewers on the internet for the contest, which, if you think back to like the year 2000, that's a pretty impressive number. Was Octoshape in play at that point? Or
I don't think Octoshape was in play, so I'm betting it's like a real player / like probably like a real player situation. Remember that?
Oh, goodness.
The video had to be like tiny on like on like a 640 by 480 monitor. Just,
yeah.
So just, we're talking about this video being potato quality, but like watching it on a computer in the year 2000 over what was probably a dial-up, maybe a DSL connection, just sort of watching like a very large purple pixel that I'm assured is Nikki French.
But it's like buffering every like third second. It's like, well, the idea of the coolness is there. So. Next up on the list is Malta and Claudette Pace's Desire.
I wrote down that this had fun aunt energy.
Okay, I get that.
In the SNL CD compilation sketch in my head, Maya Rudolph would be playing Malta.
Okay. Yeah, I could get behind that. Yeah, there's like this sort of Caribbean flair to the track. A really good vocal.
Excellent vocal.
But it also felt like something that would fit in at Eurovision maybe 15 years earlier. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like slot this anywhere in like 90s Eurovision, and like, yeah, it's there.
Like anywhere in 90s Eurovision, anywhere in Malta's Eurovision resume, it feels like. But it works. Yeah. I don't know. Like if they were to submit this today, which I could see them absolutely doing that, I don't know if it would necessarily be successful. But yeah, that was a fun one.
Norway, I just was like, this is just thinking about like having contemporary references to connect everything to. I'm like, this is just like Bewitched or S Club 7 in a Norwegian accent.
Okay. Yeah, I just have it listed as like retro girl group. Good vocal, but there was just nothing contemporary about what was being presented.
You have like a contemporary girl group doing like a kind of dated song.
They're not the only girl group in the competition, and also not the only girl group doing something out of time.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Like it's an interesting choice.
It's an interesting choice. And like, I don't think either of the groups that did that really like that was not the moment.
Right. I can kind of see like where you would think it would be the moment. This would have been after Spice Girls, but like you had Dream and yeah. And like the other groups that you were mentioning as well, that are just this kind of like B tier, C tier,
B tier, C tier. Everybody is singing in unison.
Yeah. End of an era, perhaps. So.
Yeah, yes. Pour one out.
Yes. The next one that performed was Russia and Alsu with Solo. I don't think we really got into this when we were talking with David and Fred about it, but this song felt like the most 2,000 of the entries, at least up to that point.
Well, especially coming directly after Norway, this one feels so contemporary.
This is obviously like the era of Britney and Christina and like all of those teen girl virtuoso voice performers. You can understand why the audience was very excited about
was
this
very
entry.
into it. You understand like why Russia was going, yes, this is the choice.
I don't know if it necessarily dated well. Like this definitely feels 2000.
The very specific like Spanishy guitar tone that was across a bunch of entries just like immediately unlocks like the 2000s part of my brain.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of shrapnel from the Latin explosion throughout this contest. So
that is. But it's also just a very solid performance, and it's one of the ones that is not, here is our main singer, here is 6 minus X backing singers.
Right. Yeah, like they're dancers, and it would be an understated performance by today's standards, but it is trying something new compared to what had preceded it. So
yes,
yeah, like it looks so minor now, but it's like, oh no, this is a turning point. Yeah. Following Russia was Belgium and Nathalie Source with Envie de Vivre. The postcard, bloodhounds fending off a burglar, and it was like a Belgian breed of dog.
The level to which they were struggling, I'm just like, you guys could have done a different postcard concept if this one was not panning out after you got through like the 3 top ones.
What were your thoughts on this entry?
Again, Russia feels very contemporary. Belgium in this entry feels very stuck in old Eurovision mode. I wrote down the Celine Dion we have at home. Pop diva, big powerhouse vocal, kind of all over the place, doing some runs. I did know that this was the Barbara Dex Award winner.
Oh, okay.
That was a thing then. Just sort of thinking over who it was, I'm like, I think it might be Belgium, and then I went on the website and it was Belgium. Everything about it feels... Belgium hasn't gotten the news that it's the 2000s yet.
I tried not to look at the standings or like the Wikipedia page while I was watching this, because it's like, oh no, I just kind of want to get my first impressions and then kind of try to guess to see how things shake out. But I had to see where this one landed, and surprise, it was in last place. My main note about this is like, who is this for?
There's like a few of those in this contest where I'm just like, okay. Again, like the old Eurovision is dying, the new Eurovision struggles to be born, and some countries were struggling more than others.
Yes, and this one was a struggle. So, following Belgium was Cyprus and Voice with Nomiza. And yeah, this one, kind of going back to what we were saying about Russia, where it was like much more performance-based. There's a song component too, but like the performance is more part of the package than...
Yeah, like I appreciated the staging here, even though I didn't particularly care for the song. Like I appreciate what they were trying.
That is one of the things that I enjoy about Cyprus. Like when they are trying to be more performance-y and conceptual about things. Like if they can marry it with a great song, like that can work out beautifully. When they're just being a little bit more experimental, I'm on board with that as well.
I would not mind if they tried something a little bit more experimental one of these years.
Do you want to take the next one?
Yeah, Iceland. I feel like this is one of the Icelandic songs that I have picked up either from it getting covered at Song of the Captain or in other contexts, but I had not seen this one like on its actual Eurovision stage. For me, it was like fun, but like a little bit... Like, it felt like they had, like, smoothed it out a little bit too much in a few places, so I did what I always do with Icelandic entries. I'm like, is there a video of the Song of the Captain performance? And there was, and I kind of like it in the original Icelandic a little bit better.
Yeah, so the song is Augustin Telma's Tell Me. Yeah, I was kind of getting, like, a little bit of a retro vibe, sort of like Ravenettes in a way.
Yeah.
I could see this at Song of the Captain today, and... could even potentially get through. It would struggle at like main Eurovision, but yeah, this one was a fun performance. You sent me the link to the video and of the original Song of Captain performance, and yeah, I'm not sure which one I prefer. I think each one has kind of pros and cons, and maybe if you could marry the two together, it would turn to a really nice package.
They did something with the instrumentation between the original and what showed up at Eurovision where I like the original a bit better. But yeah, it's like maybe just like the original instrumentation where it's a little bit more live, and like it's also just like a live performance. You have the instruments on stage, so
yeah,
just like mix that with like the English lyrics, and I think you've got like a good one. Because like again, like there's a sweetness to it that's nice.
even though it could feel a little bit dated, similar to Norway's retro performance, like this one, it seemed like there was a little bit more intention on the choice of making it a more retro sound than just having it be like a costume decision. It was not costumed as a retro style performance. It was just in the instrumentation. And yeah, so that was the next 6 acts, and they took another break and had a montage of highlights from the last 45 years of Eurovision, since this was the 45th edition of the contest. And yeah, I mean, like, you get your normal hits of Bucks Fizz and the skirt pull and that sort of thing. But I felt that it included some clips that are, I don't know, not quite hidden gems, but just being like, oh yeah, I remember that one got some play like during Eurovision again, and other clips that aren't in the more modern clip packages. I'm thinking specifically of Matahari from the 76 contest. Some
of the ones that are just sort of the ones that we're always going to put in the montage of just like, we are always going to show the Bucks Fizz skirt rip. We're always going to show the Swedish, like the other, we're going to show both of the skirt pulls because
it's a motif. Yes.
Yeah.
Now that we're halfway through the 2000 show, it seems like a good place to pop in and talk about what's happening here on the EuroWhat. Over on our Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/EuroWhat, we have dropped our episode highlighting our favorite pop culture items from 2024, with a couple of items from before 2024, but we rediscovered them this year.
Exactly. We discovered them and or were obsessed with them this year, and that's what counts.
Really fun conversation, and thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. It really helps with keeping this show up and running, and yeah, we really appreciate all of the support. And yeah, it's fun to put together these bonus episodes on topics that are somewhat very tangential to Eurovision at times.
We are also over on Blue Sky. The Eurovision Blue Sky community is really starting to come together beautifully. There's a couple great starter packs from Danny from the Wind Machine podcast. It's been very fun to just see conversations starting over Monta Song, conversations starting over Junior Eurovision. It's a fun place to hang out. Come find us there.
We are at EuroWhat there as well. And yeah, if you're listening to this on the day it drops, I'm sure we will be commenting on the ESC 250 along with everybody else who is already over there. So come join the party. It's going to be a great way to spend New Year's Eve. Next time on this show, we're going to be back to our weekly episodes. We are going to be in the 2025 on season. Next week, we'll be talking about the results from Albania's Festivali Këngës and, of course, the results from the ESC 250 and various other headlines, such as font decisions from the EBU and other design choices, and whatever other news has popped up in the last couple of weeks.
The second half of the show, I mean, had to like briefly pause the upload I was watching because they have removed the audio track for the next 3 songs, probably due to copyright reasons. So had to like go find alternative sources for Spain, Denmark, and Germany, which that was like a fun trip. And like Spain in particular, why are they gatekeeping this? You cannot find it on YouTube. I basically just had to go to like the studio version on Spotify.
Spain's entry, Sergen Zubiri's Colgado de un Sueño, it's just completely scraped from YouTube. I would like to know the story about that. I also had to dig up the studio version. And I was actually trying to sync up the studio version while watching it on YouTube. just really to see if I could do it. And like, I was just having a really difficult time. It's like, this is not a good way to spend my Wednesday evening. So
no.
I thought it was fine. It's a pretty straightforward performance. I believe Sergen is visually impaired, so like he's just staying behind the piano, and it has the backing singers and stuff. But like, yeah, like it was a good song. Or like, yeah, I mean, nothing truly remarkable about it. Be like, oh, this should have won, but it's like, oh no, like perfectly serviceable.
Yeah, it's perfectly nice. I'm like, Spain, what's the deal? Like, why is this so hard to find?
The one that I think is really strange that it's like completely blocked is Denmark. The Olsen brothers, Fly on the Wings of Love, particularly because it was the winner. So
they really want you to go watch the exact same performance over on their YouTube channel.
What are your thoughts on this song?
Okay, so I realized in watching this that I had never experienced this song as like a unified whole. I only just hear like the little clip of the chorus, and there's so much stuff happening around it that I was just unaware of and surprised by at every corner. It's very sort of, like, my notes are just like, it's very Sting / like Phil Collins Tarzan soundtrack.
That's it. Oh, I could not put my finger on it, but that is exactly what it should be. Yes.
Yeah, no, it's just like slotted into like a scene where he's like flying on a bird or something, you know, and like looking at Jane. At one point, there's just like vocoder, and like I'm just like, why is this here? As a whole, I'm like, this is okay, and I don't know if it's just like aged weirdly, but just like I'm not sure I like it. The vocal tone is like very like Jimmy Fallon's impression of Robin Gibb during the Barry Gibb talk show. It's weirdly nasal. It's just like, as a whole, I'm like, it's fine. I think there were better songs.
Yeah, like, I think this is where, like, again, that struggle of old contest, new contest, like, really kind of figuring things out, because it is all televote, but you have to think about who's watching Eurovision, and particularly during the mid-90s, and, like, probably earlier than that. Like, it is a very adult contemporary skewing audience. Yes. I think that's probably still the case today, if we're being honest with ourselves, but this feels exactly like the sort of stuff that was winning American Idol in like the mid to late 2000s.
This feels very VH1 to Al Sue's MTV.
Yes. Like, I can kind of understand why it won in 2000. I don't think it's aged poorly. I think it's just like, it is in a very particular mold. If you're just not into that style, because like Sting and Phil Collins, very successful careers, they're not really my bag. Like, I'm not going to like run to turn off the radio if one of their songs are playing, but I'm not seeking it out either. So yeah,
particularly like 90s era Phil Collins.
Yeah. I did dig up what was number one on the day of the contest, just because I was curious, because, again, like, we were thinking, like, oh, yeah, like, 2000 is such a mishmash of stuff. So in the US, the number one song was Maria Maria by Santana.
Okay.
In the UK, it was Britney's Oops, I Did It Again.
Those two songs as number ones in the context of this Eurovision. Yeah, that tracks.
Number one R&B song was Toni Braxton's He Wasn't Man Enough on the Countryside. Buy Me a Rose, Kenny Rogers with Alison Krauss and Billie Dean. I do not know what to do with that information.
I don't. Nope. Those are some names.
Yeah. Number one alternative hit, Other Side by Red Hot Chili Peppers. You could have told me that song came out in 1994 or 2012, and I would have believed
have so
you.
much trouble pinning that one down in time.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of my entire feeling about the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Like, if it's not Under the Bridge or Give It Away Now, it's just like, yeah, like, it could be anywhere in their like 40 plus year career. And then let's see, the number one dance track was If It Don't Fit by Abigail. I don't think I'm familiar with that one.
This is what I don't like about mononymous singers. It's like, I can't, what am I supposed to do with just Abigail? If it goes nowhere, cool. Now I can't Google you.
This list is kind of all over the place, but it was just like, oh, nope, these all would have probably played back to back to back to back to back on the radio, and it would have been completely fine. So yeah, like, it still feels like this contest is a couple years behind the times, but at least like kind of seeing like the trajectory, it's like, oh yeah, like these sort of songs would be like in 2002, this is what they're going to be doing, you know? Denmark, I can see why they
I understand why.
Yeah. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it, but yeah. Immediately following that is Germany and Stefan Raab with, I got to make sure I get this, the word order correct, Vada Hada Duda Da. What did you think of this performance?
My immediate note is that the intro to the song is that one TikTok that we pass back and forth a bunch of the German teens going, "Oh my god!"
Oh yeah,
ra-ta-ta-ta. Stefan Raab is pure charisma on stage. It's just like, I don't think I like this song, and yet, yes, this is the man who should be in charge of picking Germany's entry next year.
Like, I can't tell if it's a joke entry or it's just Germany being Germany. I think you could make a compelling case for both.
Yeah, it's like, I can't put my finger on entirely what's going on, but again, I cannot take my eyes off the screen.
I was looking up the lyrics for this. It's like, wait, is this Are the lyrics of this like entirely nonsense lyrics? Yes and no. Like, I also don't know if it was just like a bad translation of German. Like, it's just like, I do not understand what is going on here, but it kind of works. Like, it's just like, oh, nope, you're just like making sounds and making movements. And yes, you're checking all of the audio visual boxes for Saturday night entertainment.
I don't think I liked the song, but also it was a very good performance.
You can kind of hear in the audience the same sort of conflict, I guess. Yeah. Like, it's just like there were people cheering. I think there was booing or grumbling, at least. Like, it was not like rapturous applause. It was not like a standing ovation, but it does make me want to televote for it, which in like what's supposed to be like a televote only year, excellent choice. Anyways, I get it, Stefan Rob. I get it. Following that, Switzerland and Jane Bogart with La Vita Cos'è. I have no notes. Not in a like, oh, it was perfect sort of way. It was just sort of like, I have nothing to say.
This is a song that exists. Like, at one point, like, I think the first chorus, the backing singers come in like one of those YouTube ads is just like 600% louder than the thing you were watching before.
Yes. Yep.
But yeah, like, that's my only note. It's just like, again, this is a song that exists.
Kind of the same deal with Croatia's entry, Goran Karan's Kad Zaspu Endeli. My only note for this is Balkan Ballad with Spanish guitar, which
that's all that I wrote too, is just Balkan Ballad.
Yeah. And but like, I think the Spanish guitar is just like, oh no, this is what places it in the year 2000.
Yes.
Sweden, so the home team, Roger Pantare with When Spirits Are Calling My Name.
I would love to see Sweden do more Sami representation, because I love that they've had him represent them a few times, and like, he has that background. I would also love to hear this with like real instrumentation instead of MIDI instrumentation, because like, there's some cool stuff happening.
I was thrown off at first when the performance started, because again, like, I was not checking the Wikipedia page or anything like that. I was just trying to absorb it, and like, my immediate instinct on this was just like, oh no, because like there have been instances in more recent Eurovisions where like people are wearing like full indigenous headdress.
Okay,
this,
yes. Like, I had like this, like, my hackles did get like briefly raised. It's like, it's the early 2000s. We've done some sensitivity training since then, but then I was like, no, like, it's Roger Pantare. He's allowed.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, the song is about indigenous peoples. He's wearing Sami appropriate clothing. He's accompanied by a Cree dancer, a Thule Inuit, and a Norwegian Sami. So it's just like, no, it is not cultural appropriation that is happening on stage, even if that is like the first instinct. It's like, oh no, Sweden, what are you doing? I agree. I think once you get over that initial hurdle, it's like, oh no, like this is doing a really good job. And I think the instrumentation piece of it is what was holding it back.
It also feels just like a really good, just sort of, we're hosting the contest entry in terms of choosing to showcase someone who is of Sami heritage. But also, it's a good song, but like, there's other stuff in the contest that's better. We don't want to host again.
Way to check all of those boxes, Sweden. Next up, North Macedonia, formerly known as the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia. This is XXL with 100% Te Ljubam. This is another girl group. It's reading as inappropriate for junior Eurovision, but feels more like a junior Eurovision entry. And
yes.
But it's also like maybe a clip from the Coyote Ugly trailer. I had to look up when Coyote Ugly came out to make sure that if that reference would work in this context. Mm-hmm. I don't think it would. It came out a little bit too, like, I think it was like 6 months after this contest. But yeah, talk about a song that does not go anywhere.
Okay, so the thing I wrote at the top, it's giving Dolly style. Just
I know you're excited, Ben. You gotta just hold it in until
just 4 singers and each of them is wearing one color. Let's go.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like the weird mixture of, it's like the styling is very adult Eurovision. The song is kind of junior Eurovision. Like, it feels like it could just be like a song from a children's television program. The English chorus did not help. Is like, I don't want to know what these words are.
Yeah.
I want to know less.
Yeah. It just drones for 3 minutes. It's just
it really does. It was not a pleasant experience.
Yeah. Not my cup of tea. Fortunately, we got another break after North Macedonia performed. This one highlighted the trophies that were going to be handed out. There was a trophy for the winning song and then a trophy that would go to the winning composer.
We do need to return to giving the winners of these things like a coffee table tchotchke, though.
I mean, they do look much more durable than the current
than the
iterations
constantly
of the trophies.
breaking, very fragile microphone.
They're really garish design.
Oh, yeah, no, it's just like there's like a period in like the 90s and 2000s where you're just getting just sort of like something that's like a little plexiglass shape that we used to give at like tech conferences. This was like the point where the male host of the evening from the Swedish side were like, did Fred Willard use this as the source material for Best in Show? He was just kind of clueless the entire time, and just like the female host was just like on top of things. She showed up ready to work. I'm just like, this is why we only let women host the show now. Is like they show up ready to work.
Perhaps his English is not as strong, so he's not able to like do the repartee piece of hosting as comfortably. It was a weird combination of hosts.
The old Eurovision is dying. The new Eurovision struggles to be born, and that includes the hosting as well.
Yes. And the ill-fitting suit. That was really not my favorite wardrobe choice.
It was 2000. Men's clothing was not allowed to fit properly until only recent times.
True.
The other thing I did like, though, is they said, but only for 90 more minutes, and that was an accurate sense of time, which you can't do in the contest anymore, because there were 90 minutes left on the video. They had the timings down, and now it's just like, well, we're going to just figure it out.
Well, yeah, I mean, because there's just not as much fluff in these interstitials. It's 6 songs, boom, 6 songs, boom. Like, it's not like, oh, well, we have to take a break in between, like, these 2 songs because there's, like, a panini press that needs to get set up.
Exactly. There's just so much less stage. Like, they have to, like, rearrange, like, the 6 plinths that are on stage.
Next up is Finland and Nina Eström's A Little Bit. Yeah, this was another one that I really kind of dug, or it was just like, oh, yep, this is taking me right back to high school. Yeah, just like a very 1998 adult contemporary violin that is kind of like from like 10,000 Maniacs, a little bit more than Sixpence None the Richer, but like kind of in that zone of the adult contemporary dial. But then you also have that like drum machine, like Backstreet Boys, like sound.
Yes. Okay, like I think you have hit the musical influences that explain like why I wrote down "Touched by an Angel."
I don't know, that Sixpence None the Richer feels a little too racy for "Touched by an Angel," but
yeah. I just felt like at any moment Roma Downey was going to appear on stage. No. It was fine for me.
Yeah. That's all we have to say about Finland. It's like, Mike loved it, Ben. Yeah. So
it was present.
The big one in this set is Latvia and Brainstorm's My Star. And this is Latvia's debut at the contest. So, very supportive crowd. And this is a song that has a perfect record in the ESC 250. I kind of get it. It's a song it doesn't feel like it's kind of bound to time. Like, it feels very 2000, like 1998, 99, 2000 era. But I don't want to call it one hit wonder because I feel like that has a negative connotation to it. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of the songs like Kiss Me or Steal My Sunshine or Get What You Give, whereas the one big song for a particular act. And it just puts you in a total sensory space of that time, like where you were when you were listening to this song the first time, like that sort of thing. I think it really worked.
It feels like very in line, just thinking about other Latvian entries, with like, it feels in the same space as like Cake to Bake on the Latvian side, kind of. It's a little bit more acoustic-y than Latvia has always been. I really dug the instrumentation on this one. I see why the crowd was responding to it. It's got like a really interesting vocal line as well.
Even though it has this perfect record at the ESC 250, why don't we talk about it more? Because like it's possible it's because like Latvia did win a couple of years later and hosted, but this is one of Latvia's most successful entries, especially considering like how unsuccessful they have been the last decade.
This one was very fun to experience. I was very happy to see it getting a lot of points when it came time for points time. Turkey, this one was like a fun one. As somebody who listened through all the Turkish entries once upon a time, like this is a good one. It's aged well. There's a lot of good stuff going on with it.
I think my favorite part of it was the Netscape cameo that we got in the computers during the postcard of all places. But yeah, like this is Turkish with Latin flavor. And my note on this was I would not be surprised if I've heard this in a Turkish restaurant or kebab shop and just did not realize it. And it's like, oh no, this one's really great. It's like, it's fun. I think the thing that's holding it back is that maybe not particularly distinct. Yeah, like I perfectly serviceable track. And this was around the time that Turkey was heading into their imperial period. So.
Yes. It's like they were figuring out, this is what we need to send. This is what does well for us.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it's like, oh, you're going to win in a couple of years probably. And they did. So they did. Okay. The one that we both wanted to highlight is
Gloves
next.
Off.
Yes. Ireland's Eamon Toll with Millennium of Love. Which Ben, you go first.
I just have in all caps Millennium, pew pew pew, ding ding ding, we did it. This sounds like bad Christian contemporary music. Ireland is still doing the ESC like it's the mid-90s. Yeah. Uh-oh. But also, I feel like you could do a version of this song where you are singing this song, note for note, no lyrical changes, and indicate just through gesture and just body language that you are doing a parody of Irish Eurovision entries.
I had almost the exact same note. I have, let me find it here. Yes. Yuck, period. Trying to be Love Shine a Light, but if they slipped this into the Eurovision movie as the deepest cut, that would have killed every cliche thing you can think of about like what Eurovision naysayers will usually point to. Like it feels like this song has it. And it's just like Millennium of Love. Like it's just like so
yeah, no, just so just like when I saw that title, I was like, okay, cool, it's the Millennium, let's do something with that. And then the music kicked in, I'm like, oh no. Just the candles on the screens in the background. If they were allowed more people on stage, you'd have like a river dance person doing stuff quietly. It's Ireland on autopilot, because like this is just like a little bit of Rock and Roll Kids, a little bit of all of the stuff they've been sending throughout the 90s, and they are going to very quickly learn you can't do that anymore.
Although I do have this note here. There's a part where he sings "Denied the Power and the Glory," and you can hear a scream, but it sounded more alarmed than "woo." I don't know what was happening with in the audience, but yeah, like this is. Jumping ahead to the scoring sequence a little bit. I watched the scoring sequence separately from the main show just because of timing things. My husband walked into the room and was watching it, just like, what are you watching? And it's like, oh, it's just the results from the 2000 Eurovision and Ireland's in fourth place. And I'm really, really mad. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, again, like getting into the whole like heavy skew towards adult contemporary. It's like, no, yeah, like this is what would be playing on WNIC, and anytime that you tune in, like it would be like how you know that you are on that radio station. So oh goodness. But yeah, not for Mike's or Ben's. I'm
no, just like bury this in the ground and salt the earth. It's just oh man, just like on so many levels, and like just hearing him like, oh, this is gonna do better than I want it to, because it's 2000 and we haven't gotten completely tired of this yet.
Yeah, and it has a key change, so
at least it had a key change. They got that memo.
And then the final key change of the night comes from Austria and the Rounder Girls with "All to You." Yeah, their postcard contribution is a suntan from a ski trip. Okay, thanks, Scandinavian Air. Like that really felt like again, the product
Sweden.
placement. Yeah,
Sweden. If the idea doesn't work past 5 of these, you have 24 of them to do.
Yeah. So but yeah, this one was another like 60s girl group aesthetic. It was fine. Like the vocal was fine.
I feel so much more in favor of producer lineup over random draw, just because this should not be ending the show. It's such a weird denouement of, okay, this is like the last song of the night, and it's there. Like they do a good job, but like they should be like somewhere in the middle of the lineup.
Yeah, that's a fun little exercise. Assuming that everybody who's in the first half drew the first half. Like who should have opened the show?
Who do we think should have opened the show?
I don't know. I'm thinking maybe Israel was the right opener for that. Yeah.
I think Israel is the right choice.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, you're getting the aesthetic. You're signing up for 3 hours of Europop weirdness. So
yeah, like it's up tempo. It's starting the night off on like a fun note. Yeah, like I think they did nail like who opens the show.
Mm-hmm.
I would maybe close the show with Germany.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Or Sweden, possibly, of something that has like a little bit more. There's something that feels small about Austria's song performance wise.
Yes.
So you need something that's like on the bigger end and looking through what we have in that vein there. Maybe Turkey as well?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe Turkey. Spain might have also worked. And maybe it would have been like if Ireland weren't immediately before Austria, it might have worked a little bit better. But
yeah, it's just like a weird shift in energies from Ireland to Austria.
Yeah. Like I think Latvia was in a good spot in the lineup, but if it was second to last, I think it would have been just a little bit better, and then something to like kind of come down from Latvia. But
yeah,
I think overall the lineup more or less worked.
Yeah, because like when we've watched previous Eurovisions, there's sometimes where like the random draw has meant okay, every sort of nice white man with a guitar is happening now.
Yes. Which contest was that? Was that 2006 or?
I was like, like 2006, 2000. Just like we're just like, oh wow, just like you all sent that, and they're all next to one another, and I remember none of them.
Yep. So Austria close out the show, and then the phone lines are only open for 5 minutes.
Like, no wonder this blew up the phone lines in multiple countries. 5 minutes for the vote.
It was supposed to be televote for the countries that could handle it. Russia, they did not have the phone infrastructure available to do a phone vote, so they were going to be jury regardless. Latvia's phones were overwhelmed by voting, so they ended up having to do a jury vote. And then the Netherlands had to do a jury vote because this was the same time that the Enschede fireworks disaster happened, which that whole thing just sounds bananas.
Yes. I'm not super familiar with it, and or it has never come up at work. Somehow this came up in the context of Eurovision of just like times when like jury has replaced the televote, and just like went to the Wikipedia page, read through, and like, holy crap.
There was a fireworks factory and there was a fire in the building and it reached the supply and several hundred injuries, people killed. Like it was bad. And when they were going into the voting sequence, since there were only 24 participants, it was a much faster voting sequence, but they were going in order of the performances. So Israel gave their votes first, then it goes to the Netherlands, and the person that they're speaking to at the Netherlands is just like, yeah, we had to do a jury. I can't go into the details right now. Here are our scores. I gotta go. You're just kind of left thinking, what happened? But you can't pull out your phone and look it up because that wasn't a thing yet.
That wasn't a thing then.
Yeah. But before getting into the voting sequence, there was another montage while the phone lines were open. I couldn't quite figure out what the theme of the montage was. I think it was just like global community.
I really liked the music that they were pulling together from all the clips. It was very much in the same vein as like the books or other acts that do a lot of like sampling of sounds like that. And like I was having a great time. And then like at the end, it turned into the Daft Punk Around the World music video. Just like with everybody on stage and your little,
Yeah. Like, I mean, it kind of felt like it was fulfilling some sort of like educational requirement or something. And like, it reminded me of different video things that you would see like during an episode of Sesame Street.
Yes.
Or the inspiration for the credits sequence on The Amazing Race, just with like the level of montage that they were doing, like just hopping from country to country and a lot of highlighting of food and travel mechanisms, which is like, okay, that's kind of my bag. So
yeah, it's like, I don't know whose pet project that was, but they did a very good job.
Yes. And again, this is kind of where the SD pulled from a VHS quality of it, I think really kind of enhance this. Like, I think if we were watching it today in high def, I don't know if it would be as effective.
There's something to the SD quality. Like we mentioned this at the top, but just like the SD video quality throughout, that's just like very charming in the same way that whenever I find like whoever is uploading a bunch of the Mystery Science Theater episodes off of the tape they recorded it on, where there are commercial breaks with period ads from Menards.
Yeah, or like the tracking, or like other like little video flubs and stuff. It's like, oh this is why you visit archives, so you can just see like what the original manuscripts are looking like. So
yes. Now that we are getting to the voting, I did like the solid dad joke of, no, we are Hungary, you are Sweden.
Oh, yes.
Like, just beautifully executed.
Yes. And again, something that kind of plays differently in 2024 than it does in 2000.
Yes.
Come back, Hungary, we miss you. But it's also just kind of interesting to be like, oh, right, this is how they used to do the voting sequence, where like you go to the representative, they read through all 10-point recipients, and that is one thing that I do not miss, is dealing with...
like, how did it take us as long as it did?
Yes. Well, not only that, but like whenever there was a flub in giving the points, because that did happen a couple of times where somebody's like, oh, our 5 points go to this country. And it's like, yes, but your 4 points, who do those go to? And they're just like, who? And even when they like brought it down to just giving like the top 3 scores for a time there in the early teens, people would still flub that. And it's like, yeah, just tell them to say one thing, and that's all we need. I don't think there was anything particularly dramatic about this voting sequence. Once Denmark took the lead, it was theirs. Like they
basically just like never let it go. Yeah, like midway through I started watching the points giving at like 1.25 speed, just because like, okay, cool, like let's pick it up, people.
Life is short. But yeah, like there was one point during the voting sequence, Russia came within 1 point, but that was as close as it ever got. Like Denmark ran away with this.
Looking at just sort of the distribution of 12 points, Denmark well ahead of the lead, has 8 sets at 12 points. Latvia and Russia in second both have 4.
Oh, that's great. I think this was probably the right top 3, not necessarily in that order. I think I probably would have given it to either Russia or Latvia at the time.
Honestly, like even extending it to like the top 4, like Russia, Latvia, or Estonia, heck yeah. I understand why Denmark won.
So they come up onto the stage, and they were just giving Denmark way too many things to hold, because they have like their flag, and then handing them flowers for winning, and then handing them their trophies because they were both the winning performers and the composers of the song. So they have 2 trophies to juggle, and then microphones and their guitars. And
yes.
Just like, yeah, you really need to just kind of like scale that back a little bit.
I did appreciate like the level of confidence of when they get on stage, like, so were you nervous? Like, no.
Yeah.
Swedish television has been so great all week.
We've been doing this for decades, and it's just like, oh, thank you for finally recognizing our talent. Like, it's just, like, it's just very, very blunt. It's like, no, we should have won this contest. It's like, yeah, you know what? I kind of respect that attitude, you know? Yeah. So overall, what did you think of this contest?
I enjoyed it a lot. I've wanted to see like the full crazy quilt, just to see like all of the other stories going on with this. And there's so many touch points to what is happening in actual pop, even if it is actual pop from a few years ago. You have Latvia debuting, which is great because we know in a couple years from this one, they're going to win. You have all of these little threads that we've been thinking about on the show for the last few years, and getting to see how they all kind of work into that. So I just think it was a good time. It's
fun to visit the contest in a context of being exposed to the pop music. Like I love looking at the like really historical contests, just to see like, oh yeah, like this is just like what television was like in the early 60s or that sort of thing. But I was around at this time, and yeah, we were really trying things in 2000, weren't we? And,
yep.
Like some of them worked, some of them didn't. And just the fact that this was during a formative time in developing like my music diet, and just kind of comparing and contrasting with like what stuck and like what am I still nostalgic for, and seeing how that has evolved over the last 25 years.
Quarter
seriously.
Century.
Oh, don't frame it like that. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the EuroWhat. Thanks for listening. The EuroWhat podcast is hosted by Mike McComb, that's me, and Ben Smith.
That's me. You can find our full archive of almost 250 episodes on our website at EuroWhat.com. If you'd like even more episodes, join our Patreon. We talk about movies like Xanadu and Can't Stop the Music, and other topics adjacent to Eurovision. You can get to Patreon through our website, or by going to patreon.com/EuroWhat.
Next time on the EuroWhat, we start our weekly coverage discussing the results from Albania's Festivali Këngës and the ESC 250 countdown.
Ra-ta-ta-ta!